guys, it's Brandon Miniman from Pocketnow.com, and this is a 2-month update on the HTC HD2. I've been using this device as my daily driver for about 2 months now, since the review that we published on Pocketnow in mid-November, and I want to talk a little bit about the experience over the last 60 days, talk a little bit about battery life and performance, how the hardware is holding up, and really how the whole experience has been in using this device. Of course, you can't get this device in the US yet. You can import it from Europe. It will be on T-Mobile in the USA coming up in Q1 of 2010. So I can't get US 3G on this, unfortunately, which means that internet browsing can get a little bit slow, or a lot slow, when I am not near Wi-Fi. So just that little disclaimer to start things off. So the HD2 has always been an amazing device, mostly because of its screen and also because of its speed. It's got the largest touchscreen of any smartphone that you can buy right now, 4.3 inches. And when people see this device, they say, wow, that screen is massive. Time and time again, without fail, that is their response to seeing the HD2. And it makes a lot of sense. And you would think that with such a large screen, the device would be huge in the pocket. But thanks to a very, very thin width here, it's not the case. It's quite a thin device, and most people that pick this up and play with it for a moment say, wow, this device is really thin. It doesn't feel that big, which is also quite great. HTC did a great job at spreading the screen from edge to edge, which you can really appreciate because there's just a small strip of buttons along the bottom, which really makes the device all about the screen. So let's talk a little bit about the hardware. I found the hardware durability to be top-notch, perhaps the best I've seen on any mobile device. I am not gentle with the HD2. I come home, I drop it on the counter, I put it in a pocket where there may be a key, I don't use a case, I don't use a screen protector, and yet the hardware shows no sign of wear and tear yet. I cannot find a scratch on this HD2. We're going to walk around it in a sec. Maybe you can, but it's holding up very, very well. Extremely high build quality on the HD2, which is nice to see. And I think that's because it's reusing, the device has real materials. The back is actually real metal, so it doesn't scratch easily. It takes a lot to scratch real metal. Then you have this rubbery coating on the top and the bottom, which gives it a good in-hand feel. And then the front is glass, 100% real glass. If I get a key and tap against the screen, you can hear kind of that pinging sound. And another thing about the screen is that it does a really good job at warding off smudges and fingerprints. It's got an anti-smudge coating. I did not clean the screen of this device before filming the video, and you can see that there are hardly any smudges on the screen. Even though I've made several calls today, I've held it up to my greasy face, and nothing has happened to the screen in terms of getting filled with fingerprints, which really makes a big difference when you're using the device because you're not having to constantly clean it off. One thing I did notice is that the buttons here on the bottom have a little bit of wiggle to them, which is really not that big of a deal. I was afraid that that may cause lint and debris to get trapped behind the buttons, but that hasn't happened yet. As you can see, the buttons are completely clean. But what you do discover is that this is actually not 5 separate buttons. It's one panel of buttons. Speaking of lint and debris, another problem with a lot of smartphones out there is that the edges don't come all the way, or the screen doesn't go all the way to the edges, so you get debris over here. The HD2 is clean. Very nice. Okay, so let's turn on the device and talk a little bit about the software experience and sort of the battery life I've been getting and the performance. I'm running a stock ROM. This is version 1.48. It's pretty much the same ROM that shipped with the device when I got it. It's running Windows Mobile 6.5, build 21869. I'm going to turn on the device, and again, the response that I get when people look at this phone is, wow, that screen is huge. And it really is. It's really an amazingly huge screen. And of course, it is capacitive touch. So it requires the lightest bit of pressure to get it to operate, which is very, very nice. Most or all of Windows mobile devices previous to the HD2 use a resistive touchscreen, meaning you have to use pressure to get it to operate. Even though the resistive touchscreens have gotten a lot better, the capacitive touchscreen on the HD2 is fantastic. And it also has multi-touch. So if we slide over to, say, photos and video, and we go to a picture, and pinch to zoom, we get multi-touch just like you would get on an iPhone, and it's very precise, it's very sensitive, it works quite well, and it also works in the web browser, which helps tremendously. I've been really enjoying the HTC Sense Ui, which is really just an evolution of TouchFlow 3D. They gave it a new name to sort of correspond with what they're doing on Android. The Sense UI means that you get these colorized icons, you get additional panels along the bottom, you also get this gorgeous weather animation. So the device knows where you are, of course, and it will show you the weather based on the weather conditions. And we can go into the weather demo to see what these all would look like. So when it's raining, you get a windshield wiper go across the screen. When it's snowing, there's frost on the screen. I can tell you that the weather animation doesn't have much of a purpose for me, but I like to see it anyway. I don't say, oh look, it's snowing, and then I look out the window and it's snowing. It's not like that. It's more so like, hey, there's this really cool animation going on my main screen. I'm not going to do much work on my main screen, so it's not distracting, but it's nice to have. That's another nice thing about the home screen on the HTC HD2 with this version of Sense. So you get these quick links. So these three things I do quite often. I call my girlfriend, I go to Opera Mobile, and I enter an email. Very quick ways to access all of that. And of course, you can fill this up with many different items here that you can quickly action on, which is quite nice. Something that I found a little bit annoying is that the HD2 does not come with the HTC Task Manager in the upper right corner that you find on many HTC devices. Of course, you can get this from XD developers, but out of the box, it doesn't come with that. So what you may end up happening is that lots of programs are being built up in the RAM. And while the HD2 has a tremendous amount of system RAM, 448 megabytes, which is more than any mobile device that I've ever tested, sometimes the device gets a little bit slow, and I think it's because a background process or task is taking up a lot of resources. That said, on day-to-day operation, the 1 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon processor is really fast and it doesn't lag. Like I said, there are times where things get slow. I've noticed it especially in the Twitter Peak application. I haven't loaded on a third-party Twitter application because this is quite good for what I need it for, but at times Twitter Peak does get a little bit slow. And it's nice to have the integration into the main screen. In terms of battery life, I've been getting a good day and a half of battery life out of this, which is quite remarkable considering how large this screen is. So at the end of the day, on average, I have about 35% battery life left, sometimes around 40, sometimes around 20, depending on how much I used it on that particular day. So that's quite good, a lot better than the iPhone, that's for sure, which oftentimes for me, when I use the iPhone, I can't get through a full day without charging it. So in the last 2 months, I've really stayed impressed with the HTC HD2. For me, it kind of represents the ideal device. It's got amazing hardware, extremely high-quality hardware, with a gorgeous screen, enough eye candy, but not too much eye candy, and the productivity that I really need to be as productive as possible when I am mobile. It runs Windows Mobile, it can multitask, it can run a lot of apps, it can be tweaked and hacked to your heart's content, and all while looking really, really good along the way and staying fast with such a fast processor and a ton of RAM. So I'm really happy with the HD2. I wish AT&T would get this so that I could use it on AT&T 3G, but T-Mobile customers should be happy because it's coming to T-Mobile in Q1 2010. So that was a look and an update on the HD2 and the experience that we've been having with it. That's it for now.